Sometimes when you start something new, like for me, for instance, with these YouTube videos and so on, it can feel like an uphill struggle. And that's what I want to talk about today, is that uphill struggle. Is that feeling that things have got to be done really well. And what doesn't help is there's so many people around just now saying, it's okay. The first few things can be rubbish. You don't worry about that. You don't have to be great. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be beautiful. Now, I'm not saying that they have to be, but equally, I don't think we have to accept that the first things we do are rubbish. Because that's such a negative thing. If you're trying to build on something, you are wanting to try and be positive about it. You're trying to get something from it. The way that your motivation will come is when you find the reward, and one of the best rewards is when you get the positivity, when you get that feeling of achievement, when you get 5 minutes without trucks driving by. But being able to feel that success, no matter how small, is the sort of thing that will help you going, that will help you keep going and help you build and become more skilled and become better at whatever it is you're wanting to do, whatever it is you're trying to create, whatever it is you're trying to complete. Accepting that we don't have to be perfect, but it doesn't have to be rubbish. We can be beginners. We can look at it from a beginner's point of view. I drove an old boss of mine mad because he always used to ask for reports to be done, and I would take probably too long for him in actually finishing the report. In my head, I wanted to hand him the perfect report. But what he actually wanted was the first draft or the second draft. He wanted to contribute to it a bit. He wanted to make sure it was heading in the right direction. But in my head, it didn't really, I still, maybe there was a fear of being thought of as not being that great. In the back of my head, I still had to try and do the perfect job. And so that frustration continued. We gradually got a bit better. But to be perfectly honest, I think he left before we actually got to a point that he was happy and I was happy at handing in rough drafts and so on. And perfectionism can really get in the way. And that's why I say, it's okay to be a beginner. It's okay to accept that you are a beginner at something. Because we can enjoy those parts of being a beginner. We can enjoy reaching those levels rather than going, all right, okay, so this is the first thing I do, but it's going to be rubbish, so I don't need to worry about it. Or the second thing I need to do, it's going to be rubbish. 6, 7, 8 things. Okay, by the 10th, I should be able to start doing things well. How about enjoying that you managed to complete the first one and the second one, learning as you go along? One of the things that I've done over the years, whether it be when I was creating music or even when I was doing more training videos or something like that, is every time I went and did one, I would take a little bit of time and then I would go back to it and I would take notes. I would go through it once I'd thought I'd completed it. And I would then review it and go, what could I do better next time? Not what can I do better to that one. What could I do better next time? And I would try to build that into it. Hopefully there's a little bit of that happening with these videos as well. Who knows? But then again, I'm kind of accepting that I'm a beginner at this as well. And when we do that, there's a whole thing about mindset. And you have your growth mindset and you have your closed mindset, or open mindset, whatever you want to say. But it's about that being able to move on. Being able to go, yes, I can achieve something, rather than just, well, that's the way it is. I'm rubbish at this. It's going to take a long time to actually get any good at it. And sometimes, as I said, that can just be a bit too much for people to actually deal with. Now, I know what people are meaning, and in a way, it's a way of trying to protect people. It's a way of saying, look, don't worry about it, you're just starting, it's fine not to be successful, it's fine not to be brilliant at it, it can take 10 years, whatever, to learn to play piano properly. whatever, you need to put in the hours. And that's true. You do need to put in the hours. But it doesn't mean to say that what you do at the beginning can't be good, and good at that level. Because if we think that it's going to be rubbish to start with, then that can actually stop us moving forward. If you think of something like perfectionism, if you think of people who, and maybe you think this with yourself without realising it, that you can't actually get something done until it's ready to be done. And unfortunately, it will never be ready to be done, so it just drags and drags and drags. If you think that way, then having someone say to you, don't worry, the first one's going to be rubbish, isn't going to help. In fact, it's going to make things worse. When someone comes to me with a big project to do, and they're starting to feel overwhelmed, they're starting to feel that the size of it may be a bit too much for them, or it's something they've not done before, so they don't have the skills to do it. Quite often, the best thing to do, and I'll sit with people and I'll go through this, and I've done this in coaching and IT and what have you, but to sit down and break it down. And not just break it down into, okay, so we build that, we design that, we put that out, we sell that, whatever. But what do you need to do? What's the smallest part, the smallest component that you've got to take care of? And when you look at the smallest component, it's what can you do just now? And when you think of it that way, what you can do just now is achievable. It doesn't have to be rubbish. And when you complete it, you can feel that positivity. You can get that reward. You can get that dopamine hit for succeeding, no matter how small. And when you get that, that boosts your motivation. And that motivation is what takes you on to the next level. No matter how small that next level is, it takes you on to the next level. And that's why at first I thought to myself when I was hearing people saying, don't worry, first few things, they're always rubbish. When I first started hearing that, I thought, yeah, that's right, yeah, that's fine. And I know that they're trying to be positive and they're trying to be encouraging. But why should we be encouraging by saying something so negative? It's okay to be rubbish, it's okay to be ugly, it doesn't have to be perfect. Now, I'm not trying for perfectionism, because perfectionism holds you back as much as anything else. But by giving yourself the chance to do what you can do, taking things simple, taking things easy, making things achievable for yourself by breaking it down into the small parts you can do. For instance, if you don't know how to do something, a very, very basic example, you might not know how to do something. But what you do know how to do is look up and do a bit of research. So part of those tasks is to look up and do the research, find out about it. And then for the first step on that project or that document or whatever it is you're trying to do, you do that bit and you can take the first step. That gives you confidence. That makes you feel more positive. That gives you motivation and you can move forward. Don't take it for granted that when you start something new, when you start anything, that it's going to be rubbish or it's going to be negative or it's going to be ugly. Sit for a while, think about it, break down the tasks, break down what has to be done into what you can achieve. You've got to be realistic about it. Sometimes you've got to be a bit honest with yourself about it. We can't assume that we can do everything. If you went and take an example, I like training, I like doing weights and weightlifting. If you went in and on your first day tried to lift 100 kilos, for instance, you'd probably crush your spine and things would be wrong. So you go back and you start by maybe lifting 20 kilos for one rep. And you get that right. And you can feel good because you're getting that right. And you actually feel a bit of a physical feedback there as well. But you're able to do that right. And then you build on that and the weights go up. And by the time, quite quickly, you are lifting 100 kilos and you're lifting it safely and you're lifting it well. And you get that. So it's a basic example of what it is. But by starting simply on what you can achieve and building on that, that takes care of all this idea that it's okay to be rubbish when you start. It's okay to be a beginner, but it doesn't need to mean that you are rubbish and what you do is rubbish. it can still be good and you can still take pride in it. Anyway, that's me for this week. Thank you very much, and thanks again for all the messages, the continued support, the subscribers. There will be more of me getting out and about rather than just stuck in the house or stuck in the studio. There'll be more getting in the van or the car, because there's some place that I'm going just now that it's a bit more awkward getting the van to, especially in this weather, because it's been very, very icy, very snowy. But there'll be more of me getting out, and I enjoy that better. That's me, that's my beginner, I suppose. I'm beginning to get into this, I'm beginning to do things, I'm beginning to go back, review what I do and so on, and enjoy it. So I'm waffling again. But anyway, thank you very much for your continued support. Thank you very much for all the subscriptions, all the messages, and the views and so on. It really is appreciated. And I'll see you next week. Thanks very much. Bye.